Hello everybody, it's a beautiful Sunday here. So not much wind today, it's about 50 something degrees, just a slick calm day. Figured this is a good time for me to make a video of how to catch some open water crappie. That's what I've been doing for the last 2 months or so. It's really just catching these fish out in creeks over deeper water, just suspended around bait, and sometimes they just get up closer to the shoreline, kind of like on the break lines. They're not right up on the bank, but they might only be 10 or 15 feet off of it, just kind of suspended. So I'm going to go over kind of what I'm looking for. I'm going to reiterate that you do not have to travel far to find these fish. I don't really care what part of the lake you're on. Don't drive 6 miles to get to a spot because you just drove past 6 miles of crappie that are going to be set up the exact same. So I'm just going to go into a large cove that's got some access to some deep water, and I'm going to side scan in there, kind of show you what I'm looking for, find some groups of crappie, and then we're going to drop the trolling motor and fish for them. It's going to be a lot easier to do this if you have forward-facing sonar. If you don't have it, it's not saying that you can't catch these fish, but you're not just going to be as efficient in doing this. Forward-facing sonar is going to make it very efficient because when you start catching these fish, they are going to move around. You're going to kind of drag them towards the boat. They're going to swim off a little bit. They usually don't move really far, but they do move just a little bit. So if you don't have that forward-facing sonar, you're going to have to just kind of fan cast around until you start picking them up again. Just remember where you're casting at. So I'm going to idle into a cove and we'll look at side imaging and we'll go from there. So we're coming into a cove here, just off the main lake. I'm going to go over to side imaging. I'm going to run it usually about 80 to 100 feet until you start finding some good schools of crappie. There's actually some crappie right there off to the side. As you can see, we are still in 60 feet of water here, so just going to kind of start idling in. I'll actually turn up my sensitivity a little bit so they're a little easier to see just because we're in deeper water. So here's some more crappie right here. So we're already coming up on some schools just out here. No man's land, really. Just out here, main creek. There's Bernie. Comes a boat. See some more crappie way over here. All right, we're getting a little bit closer to the bank here. You can kind of start to see the bottom over here. See some trees over there. I see some suspended fish over some trees on the right side there. So those are all would be pretty catchable with forward-facing sonar to find them. So here's a good group of crappie right here. It's coming up on the screen. So there's a good little cluster of them. So if you don't have forward-facing sonar, I'm going to drop a waypoint on these fish and you'll be able to go over to them and start fan casting with them, get an idea of where they're at. With forward-facing sonar, you can still drop a waypoint and do that, or you can honestly just kind of turn your motor off and fan around a little bit with your trolling motor until you find some clusters of fish. So for the sake of this, I'm going to drop a waypoint on these fish, and then we will turn around and go to them with forward-facing sonar. Alright, so there's the crappie right there. So they're about 40 foot out where my trolling motor's pointing. So I'll cast out there, let it sink just a second or two, and slowly start bringing this in. This group of fish was not cooperative for me. I didn't catch anything out of them, and a big part of that is I got too close to them. The wind was blowing me into it. There's no way to back off away from the fish without pushing all the water from the trolling motor towards them. So that's something you need to be really careful about and keep in mind when you're targeting these open water crappie. I like to try and keep them in that 40 to 60 foot range. You can see here they're about 10 to maybe 20 feet away from me. When you get that close, they just know something's up and they get a lot harder to catch usually. So keep that in mind, and if you do spook them or get them stirred up, just move on to another school and try again later. All right, so here we come up on some. They're just a little bit closer to the bank. See if they're willing to bite, and they are. That's another thing with these open water crappie is if you make I'm talking like 3-4 casts at them and you're not getting a bite, find a new little group of them. Sometimes the group I just started at, they didn't want anything to do with it, but you find another group and they'll eat right away. Bernie's excited. Get him in the boat. And that is how you catch water crappie, just like that. Let that one go. So they'll find us school back. Sometimes they move a little bit, sometimes they don't. Just cast and let it sink slowly. There's another one. Healthy one. See you later, Bernie. I usually try and get them around the 40 to 60 foot range. Seems to be the best, where you can cast a 16th ounce jig head and a little crappie bait that far. Because I like to usually try and get it down and then start reeling. By the time I get to them, I usually don't want to be landing right in the middle of them. This time of the year too, when the water's in the low 40s, you're not going to feel a big old thump usually. It's just going to be a little soft weight to it, or it's actually going to go weightless sometimes because they'll grab it and they'll swim towards you. They're not bumping it like springtime where you're going to feel it in the end of your rod. You're just going to feel a slight change. And then I just like to do a sweeping hook set with like a reel. I don't do like a sharp hook set or nothing, just like a pull and reel, just like that, and you'll get them every time. Alright, so I could probably sit there and catch my limit off those fish. And now I'll go out to some more open water fish if I can find some over some deeper water, just to show you what that looks like. Here's a bunch out here. Well, you can see I'll pan over. There's a whole bunch. See all them? There's a lot of crappie right there, and they're only over 15-20 feet. I'll get out here though in the middle where we're over 30-40, maybe even 50 feet, and see what we get. These are total open water fish here. These are still, we're over 35 feet of water here. Let's see if they bite first cast or not. Getting a little close to them. Coming in a little hot. Another cast in here, Bernie. Do a little slow reel here, and there he is. So that's how I target these open water crappie. Like I said, you don't have to have forward facing sonar, but it is going to make things a lot easier. You're going to be way more efficient with it. If you don't have forward facing sonar, you're probably better off like staying closer to a dock or a brush pile, something that's going to help congregate those fish and get them going back to the same spot if they get spooked, or if you catch some and it kind of pulls them off, they end up going back to the same spot. Because the problem is, you get in this open water, you know, they might move 30 or 40 feet off to the side, and then you're gonna have to fan cast just kind of around until you start getting more bites. So it's doable, but it's not ideal without your forward facing sonar. So basically find yourself a pretty deep cove, idle in there with your side imaging, pick out some good schools, mark them, drive a patrol motor, paint around them more with some forward facing sonar until you find them, cast to them, and you're pretty well gonna catch them right away, or they're really not gonna bite. So don't waste your time, you know, casting that same school over and over and over again. Try a few different schools, and then if you're not getting bites still, then maybe change up your color. But if you've watched our videos, you probably heard me say it 100 times already. The go-to color has been monkey milk with a pink head. I throw a 16th ounce head. I prefer that over a 32nd. I can cast it better in the wind. It still falls slow enough, and for the most part, I'm not letting it fall through the fish or anything like that. I'm casting beyond the fish, and I'm reeling it back to me as slow as I can. I've been using just a little Southern Pro baby shad style bait. It's like a Bobby Garland, but color monkey milk. Just got a little tail. You can see I'm barely moving it, and it's going back and forth, but when you're reeling that in back to you, it has almost no action. It's just the tail, and it might barely flutter just a little bit, but it's basically just a straight little tail back to you. So I'm not looking for anything crazy right now. The water temps are basically 40 degrees, so you know, nothing in the water at 40 degrees is really going crazy. Everything's pretty slow for the most part, unless something's chasing it and it's trying to get away, or a fish is, you know, trying to eat or something. Now, they can still move fast if they want to. As far as my rod reel line setup, I know a few people have been asking. I've been using the ACC Crappie sticks. It's a 6 foot, maybe a 6'1". It's been a phenomenal rod. I put it through the ringer now, caught a lot of fish on it, and what I like about it is it's got tip to it, like a softer tip kind of, where you can still cast these small baits and stuff, but it's not a pool noodle either. It's got good backbone. You can flip the fish over the boat with them, or when you hook a decent sized fish, you've got some fighting power with it. It's not just a big old noodle. It's just gonna, you know, bend all the way down here to the reel seat. So I like that a lot. Just use a little Shimano Sienna here. They're pretty inexpensive. I think this is a size 500. They got a good drag system on it, which is mostly what I care about. They're smooth reels. And then I pair it with 4-pound mono or fluoro. I believe this is mono on here right now, but I just like to use the lighter line with these smaller baits and stuff. Number one, it kind of makes it a little bit more fun to fight them. You got to use your drag a little bit more. You can't just totally horse them in. And then number two is the smaller diameter line, I think, helps those baits fall a little bit more natural. And then when you're reeling them in, it just has less drag on the overall bait. You know, these little baby shads and jig heads and stuff are small profile, so the least amount of drag from your line, the better, I think. So come on out and put some of the skills to test, and use your technology and stuff. You know, if you have it on your boat, there's a lot of people who have it and don't utilize it as much as they can. So, you know, if you're gonna spend the money, spend the time to then learn how to use it effectively so you can put more fish in the boat. So thanks for watching, guys, and good luck out there.